This is a little video on how to factor the other type of problem, the easy. Well, there are three key rules. Rule number 1 says that you have an x squared plus bx plus c. Because both signs are positive, to multiply and get a positive and add and get a positive, the two binomials that you will factor into will both be positive. Rule number 2 says, if I have a negative in the middle and a positive at the end, well, to multiply and get a positive, but add and get a negative, both of your binomials will have to be negative. If the last term is a negative, it doesn't matter what the middle term is. The only way to multiply and get a negative is to have one of each sign. One positive, one negative. And it doesn't matter which binomial is which. What does matter is that the sign in the middle of the trinomial will be the sign of the greater value. That'll make more sense in a minute. Example 1. I have x squared plus 11x plus 28. I can't take out something common. It's not a difference of squares. It's not a perfect square trinomial, so it must be the other type of factoring. Which rule is it? That's right, it's rule 1. Which means I can start by creating two binomials with plus signs in it. What's the only way to multiply and get x squared? Oh yeah, x times x. So the first two terms will both be x's. Now, how can I multiply to get 28, but add to get 11? 1 times 28, but that would add and make 29. 2 times 14, no, that makes 16. 4 times 7, oh yeah, 4 plus 7. So apparently it factors into the two binomials, x plus 4, x plus 7. Example 2. I have the trinomial x squared minus 14x plus 45. I can't take out something common. It's not a difference of squares. It's not a perfect square trinomial. It must be the other kind of factoring. Is it rule 1, rule 2, or rule 3? That's right, it's rule 2. So you need one negative followed by another negative, because remember, negative times negative makes the positive in the third term. Adding two negatives remains negative. That's the middle term. So again, what's the only way to multiply and get x squared? X times x. How can I multiply to make 45, but add to make 14? That's right, it's 5 and 9. So the two binomials that will factor into is x minus 5 and x minus 9. Now let's look at example 3, x squared minus 4x minus 32. Again, begin by asking yourself what rule this is. That's right, it's rule 3 because the last term is negative. That means that we need one binomial that is positive and one binomial that is negative, because we multiply positive by negative to make negative 32. Can't take out something common. We couldn't do difference of squares or a perfect square trinomial. That's why we're using this method. What's the only way to make x squared? X multiplied by x. Now, this time, we want to find a way that will multiply to make 32, but subtract to make 4. And again, the reason why we're subtracting is we have two different signs in our binomial. 1 times 32, well, that differs to make 31. 2 times 16, well, 16 minus 2 is 14. 4 times 8, 8 minus 4 is 4. Aha! 8 and 4. Now remember, the sign in the middle, the negative on the 4x, that tells me that the larger of the two values has to be negative. So when I plug it in, I know that with the minus sign goes the 8, and with the positive sign, the plus sign, goes the 4. So this factors into the binomials x plus 4 times x minus 8.